Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever time it is. Welcome to the Secrets of a Ghostwriter. Today, legal trouble. So, as we go through these tutorials, there should be a thought at some point where you go, well, it can't all be rosy. Surely something's gone wrong. Yeah, but how do we deal with it? What do you do when you get an injunction? Oh my goodness. Now, the first thing to say is that this is really unlikely to apply to anybody in fiction, unless you've stolen, plagiarized someone's manuscript. But in other walks, it's quite possible, particularly for the ghostwriter, and certainly in the biography memoir category. So, what is an injunction? Well, if you don't know what an injunction is, it is in the UK, you will be ordered by a judge to cease and desist, if you like, to stop publishing. What's a super injunction? A super injunction is where you're not even allowed to mention the injunction. Wealthy people tend to take these out, mostly footballers. So we didn't quite get an injunction, but people will use the word. They'll litter their conversation with it. I can think of three cases, three case studies where books I've been involved in might have hit the legal buffers. So I'll try and rattle through them. Number one, PC David Rathband, Tango 190. The book's about to go to print. Northumbria Police, for whom David Rathband served, and who do come in for quite a lot of criticism in that whole story, rang up Bite Back Publishing. And yeah, I think this is a good approach. They said, could we have a copy of the book before it comes out? We wouldn't want any surprises. To which my colleague at Bite Back said, I'm really sorry, you'll have to buy it like everybody else. Oh, and while you're there, is it possible, could we have a couple of mugshots of the two accomplices of the gunman? So at this point, we're really almost down to the wire, but there was time just to put another photo section in the photo plate in the middle of the book. And Northumbria Police went, yeah, no problem, and put the phone down and sent the photos over. Now, sometimes people's nervousness, paranoia, fear of what might be in a book can make them think that they actually have a legal position. And there are some really challenging passages in that book in particular, but over a decade on, that moment has passed. There's a little subplot to that as well, and that book had to go through a couple of different set of lawyers. So it went through the publisher's lawyers, Bite Back, but it also went through the policeman David Rathband's lawyers, because it was obvious at that point that there was going to be litigation, possibly, I was told, 5 years on from when that book came out. It might take that long. So that litigation was not to do with the book, but it was to do with the story that it told. Essentially, that revolves around whether Northumbria Police had a duty of care to their officers on the night. So as we're writing that book in 2010/11, I'm mindful that there could be litigation 5 years down the line. Okay, another story. BBC bodyguard, Sky News bodyguard, Craig Summers, did some incredible work, undercover filming for the likes of Panorama, and also protecting correspondents around the world, people like Ben Brown, John Simpson. Craig leaves the BBC, goes to Sky, and I'm asked to ghostwrite his book. He sends a copy of the book to a couple of colleagues at the BBC just to check their opinion and to get some quotes for the back cover. The next thing, someone at the BBC in what I think they call news gathering summons Craig to a meeting. He's not working for them anymore. We were both pretty much clear that he was free to write that book and not bound by any restrictions. And of course, the threats came in multiple numbers towards Craig. People say stuff like, you'll never work again if you publish that book. Well, over a decade on, Craig is very much working again. In fact, he's working again after he's retired, after working again. Then there's another moment, which is an interesting one. So if you're dealing with the talent show books and the book comes out, you'll appreciate that in the process of making talent shows, many people fall by the wayside. And you'll appreciate too that in the narrative of the talent shows, quite often there are what we call sob stories. So people who may have overcome some sort of tragedy, and on the back of that, their talent has given them a real reason to be. Now, Getting Over the X is a book that we wrote for the first UK winner of the X Factor, Steve Brookstein. Some time, and I mean over a year later, I got this email about one of the contestants whose name was really hard to remember, not because it was unpronounceable, but because their act wasn't so memorable. And they were aggrieved at the mention that they had in the book. And it was simply that, I think, that they were mentioned rather than any slur was put against their name. A couple of emails go back and forth, and then that's the end of it. So what can we learn from this? Well, we're dealing here with some pretty big cannon fodder. X Factor, top talent show in its day. Northumbria Police, one of the biggest police stories in the country in the century, and the BBC themselves. Hold your nerve. Never do anything until you get a letter from a lawyer. These letters never appeared. In my experience, and I'm not a lawyer, in my experience, people who say we'll sue never do. Often, and the BBC have big pockets, it is a threat, but it's also not financially worth it to litigate against somebody. And that moment always passes for the people that got caught up in it in the stress ball at the moment of publication. So until you receive a letter threatening legal action, don't consider that that is really likely to happen. Be aware, of course, and be polite. And don't ignore, front up. But it's very rare that people do go all the way. And one of the reasons, the truth sets you free. So if it's the truth, where do they go? I hope that helps, and I'll see you next time as the Secrets of a Ghostwriter continues.